John Sexton. I'm a senior electrical engineering major here at Notre Dame. And we were featured with a startup that I've created called LifeDrive that provides assistive power wheelchair control technology to people that are in wheelchairs that can't drive their chair with a standard joystick. We were featured in one of the "What Would You Fight For" commercials, like Megan mentioned. So, gonna replay it here real quick to kick off the presentation, and then we'll get into it.
My dad was diagnosed with ALS in 2014. That diagnosis was miserable. I mean, I was 13 years old. I don't wish that on anybody. It was really difficult to see how his body was deteriorating, but you could tell that his mind was just going at a million miles an hour of how to fix the problem.
I had an idea that could help people in my situation, but I needed my son's help to make it a reality.
Notre Dame student John Sexton is working with his father on assistive technology called iDriving, giving individuals who use a wheelchair the ability to control multiple functions with their eyes, granting them autonomy and caregivers relief.
iDriving has given Sean a freedom that was gradually being taken away from him as this disease progressed. It improves his quality of life. It improves his smile.
Our core mission is to improve quality of life and maintain independence, but we needed to figure out how to share iDriving with the world.
The Grand Challenge Scholars Program was developed at the University of Notre Dame to help students actualize their design and research interests into something that helps solve the greatest problems in our world.
Grand Challenges has been incredible. It's connected me to a peer team, faculty mentor, and business planning. The thing about the Notre Dame community, they don't want this to fail, not when so much good can come of this.
Working on this project has brought us together in a way that has given us life and has given us hope.
I'm so proud of my son, using his education to help others.
The University of Notre Dame asks, what would you fight for?
Fighting for the dignity of independence. We are the Fighting Irish.
All right, so there's a little bit of background on me, and here's some more. So, like I said, I am a senior electrical engineering major at Notre Dame. I'm originally from Atlanta. I'm also in the band at Notre Dame, so play a bunch of different instruments. I've played piano since I was little, but I learned tuba so I could be in the marching band here, play electric bass. I was actually the drum major this past year, so that picture in the bottom left is from this year. Getting to lead the band out on the field was really cool. And then, it was called iDriving in the video. We've changed the name and rebranded, but it's called LifeDrive now. And so we've been working on the technology for the past 7 years. So when I was a sophomore in high school, we were developing this for my dad. And then we started working on the company side of it about 2.5 years ago. We started it sort of towards the beginning of my sophomore year here at Notre Dame. And so why am I here to talk to you today? Well, it's pretty self-explanatory. We're here for engineering. We're here to build things. We're here to create things. We're here to innovate things. We're here to serve other people. So whether you built Legos when you were really little, whether you like coding and have experience doing that in your high schools, I know I had a lot of that, which was a really great background and foundation for what I did here at Notre Dame. Whether you ever see those like snap circuit things you played with when you're like 10, they were a lot of fun. Maybe I was just a nerd as a kid, but I really enjoyed doing those. Some of you probably have FIRST robotics teams at your schools. And then also this is a picture from last year, actually. There was an electric vehicles lab that I spoke for last year. So, engineering tomorrow projects as well are something that are really cool things to work on. And basically the point of this is just, there's so many different things that you can do and so many reasons for what you do that really can motivate why engineering might be something that you want to consider moving forward and work on and solve those types of problems. So speaking of reasons, figuring out why you're doing what you're doing, whether that's in engineering or whether that's in any profession that you go to, is really important. What are your motivations? What are your family reasons? What are your friend reasons? What are some societal problems that you want to solve? What are some things from your own personal experience that you want to tackle? Thinking about your motivations for why you're doing engineering can help make the work so much more fulfilling and continue to motivate you, especially when it gets really tough to stay motivated or you find challenges that are really hard to solve and you might be down and out for a little bit. That motivation, that core reason why, is what will keep you going through and help you decide ultimately what you want to do with your life. And so in the essence of practicing what we preach here, let's everybody like take 2-3 minutes. We took a little bit more last year actually, but we'll see what ends up happening, see if we need more time. It is 1:10 right now, so let's say 1:13, 1:14. Let's come back on and keep going with the presentation, but for the next like 3-4 minutes, think about what problems are you interested in solving in the world. What types of projects do you want to work on? Who do you want to help? What type of impact would you have? Is engineering factor into that impact? And then, like, why do you personally want to solve the problems or go into this type of work that you're interested in? Like, what's your personal motivations? And then what are the things that you can do to move forward and exploring more, learning further, kind of getting more of a background for what you think you might want to do. One thing too with this, it's very cool and very unique that everybody will have their own sort of motivations or their own interests, right? But one thing that can really help you discern, help you figure out what you want to do moving forward, whether that's now in high school, whether if you go to college, once you get to college, talking to people that have similar interests, asking people that have experience in what you're doing or what you're interested in, and kind of just picking their brain about different things, like talking to people about this and sharing your story or sharing your interests and figuring out how you can continue to be involved in whatever those interests are, is a huge part of your development. And you'll find that there are a lot more people in this world that are going to want to help you than that will just kind of blow you off and not talk to you. I know that's one of the reasons I picked Notre Dame as a college, is because everybody here is willing to help and kind of elevate, your motivation, elevate your projects or kind of purpose in life. And, Engineering Tomorrow also does a great job of that, providing these labs for y'all. So feel free to talk to people. I mean, I'm also a resource if you want to talk to me at any point. I don't think I can talk to all 12,000 of you at once, but I can come close if you really need to. But talk to people, ask questions. This is not something that's static. Like, you don't have to have this all figured out right now. This is just an initial thought that you have. And so moving forward, we'll go to my sort of reasoning and my motivation for what I've been working on. So like the video mentioned and like Megan mentioned, my dad was diagnosed with ALS when I was 13, when I was in 8th grade. So right before I got to high school. So it was around probably a little younger than most of y'all. And, we didn't really know how to handle the disease. I mean, there's still things that we're learning every day in terms of managing the disease. Thankfully, he's on year 8 of the disease right now, and he's still going strong because the average life expectancy for somebody with ALS is 2 to 5 years. So we've been really lucky. But first couple of years were really, really tough because it's a whole new world. Your worldview changes. What's important changes. There's so many different things that you have to consider now that you might have taken for granted before. For him, talking, moving, breathing. And so, a couple of years into the disease, he was losing the ability to speak. And at the same time, he was also losing the ability to move. So he could no longer, my sophomore year of high school, he no longer could drive his power wheelchair with the joystick. He couldn't use his left hand to drive the joystick anymore. And he couldn't speak. So he had this computer that he was using to communicate with his eyes. So he looked, at letters on a screen, sort of like you'd be typing or texting on your phone. But he was doing it with his eyes onto a computer, and then that would speak for him, essentially. I had a lot of programming experience in high school. I was, like I said, I was and still am a nerd. And my dad was also had a tech background. So we ended up building something originally. That's why it was called iDriving in the video. That's let him control his power wheelchair completely and independently with his eyes. My sophomore year of high school, we called it the Frankenboard. Because it was just a bunch of computer chips stacked on top of each other. It looked really ugly, but it worked. And so we kept developing it, kept improving it, added some things. So we have a voice control solution now and a mobile joystick. So think about like a remote control car that you would drive. You basically can do that with one of our, with a wheelchair if you have our app. Or you can like talk into a phone and control the chair. So, we kept developing those as we evolved to learn what was needed with his disease, what we needed as caregivers, all that sort of thing. And that sort of motivated why, I've been working on this for so long. If we go outside of just my experience as to why this is important, There are about 135,000 people each year that are diagnosed with a neuromuscular disease that affects their mobility annually. And so there are so many people that don't have solutions that are like this, that are designed by users, designed by patients for those patients. On top of that, there are 830 about, it goes up every year, but there's, probably around 850 to 900,000 people that use power wheelchairs every year. And if you can't control a power wheelchair, then the power wheelchair is useless. So you have, hundreds of thousands of people that need this sort of thing. And a lot of them fall under this category of losing their independence and their quality of life. And there's mental and physical challenges. So not only are you losing the ability to move, talk, and breathe, you're also losing there's probably a lot of stress that you're going through, a lot of anxiety that you're experiencing. You're contemplating deep questions about life when it's, your life is kind of flashing right in front of you with a disease like ALS that doesn't have a cure. Providing solutions like this that can maintain that quality of life, independence, and give some of that back when a disease takes so much away is really important. And it's something that is needed with technology like this in the industry. And like I said before, like the current solutions that are out there, they work, but they don't work as well as they could for individuals like my dad. And there's often a lot of red tape that you have to go through, especially when you have a disease that progresses. There's not really a solution that progresses with you or gives you multiple options like ours. There is some sort of solution that's out there, but we can do it better. That's another motivation that you could have for going into engineering or working in a certain space or on a certain project. Now getting more to the actual technology. So here's a couple of our app interfaces. We don't have the ugly board anymore. We have a nice little manufacturable board that I learned how to make with my electrical engineering degree here at Notre Dame. And you can see my dad driving, taking a nice little walk in our neighborhood using the interface on his eye control computer. So you can see on the computer, there's a bunch of different arrows and stuff, and you can see that on the right here as well. So what's happening is he's looking at those buttons on the screen. That's sending a signal to that board that you see, that little purple board over there. And then that sends a signal to the chair. And then the chair has a control system. So essentially we're a control system for the control system. And then the chair just goes based on the commands that you send it. You can also see this little, it's since been updated, so it doesn't look like a couple engineers just put a bunch of boxes on a screen and said, oh, that color's nice. So it actually looks nice and kind of branded now. But that's the mobile joystick app that we use in order for a caregiver to also have control of the chair, just to make sure there's extra safety features built in, so that, a lot of people with ALS are pretty adventurous. My dad likes to drive really fast and kind of drive dangerous driving, so to speak. Those people that like swerve in and out of the highway where they're going in between traffic trying to get to where they want to go. Sometimes ALS patients use wheelchairs like that. They like to drive very dangerously. So having those extra safety features is really important. But that's kind of how it works. Happy to answer questions about this more, because there's a lot more detail that I could go into. And you don't see the voice control app here, but that is also something that can be used by either a patient or a caregiver. And so another thing, like I mentioned earlier, talking to people, working with people, you really want to broaden your horizons of who you reach out to and who can help you in whatever realm of your future that you're going into. So in our case, we talk to people that have done medical devices before, that have sold medical device companies, that have worked with durable medical equipment, which is what a power wheelchair falls under. And so, all these people on the right, including my parents, because they have the experience of, we've been building this since my sophomore year of high school. We also have these 5 other people, along with about 30 to 40 other advisors that we talk to on varying cadences, where we discuss, okay, what's going well with the startup, what's going poorly with the startup, what do we need for the technology, what do we need on the business side. I had no business experience, and I still have fairly little. I've learned a ton. I still have fairly little in the grand scheme of things. But when I don't know something about business, I can just send an email or a text to one of our advisors and say, hey, I'm confused about this. Hey, what do you think about this? And then they'll have a conversation with me and be willing to help. And so these are some of the ones that have helped us the most. Most of them are also Notre Dame connections, which is really great. I'm not trying to plug Notre Dame, but Notre Dame is a really great place to get support for Force for Good projects like this. And that's on the advisor side. But then you also need, if you're doing a project like this, or really anything that you want to do moving forward, having a team and working together is a really important thing in order to be successful. I know when I was in high school, I was very much I mean, I still am an A type personality, and I like to do things my way. I like to get them done. But one of the greatest things I've learned from working on the startup is that you're going to have the greatest success when you're working in a team, and when you're a team player, and when you are finding people that have similar values, similar qualities, similar interests that you have, and diverse backgrounds as well, to move anything forward. So, for example, Connor and Josh are two members of the team. We have a few other members of the team that aren't pictured here, but Connor and Josh have been, with me from the start, and they're both electrical engineers. So, we have a really strong technical background. But then we also have Ellie, who was a marketing major. She actually just graduated in December. He's a marketing major, worked at the Idea Center, has a business background. The common thread between the four of us is that we're all interested in moving this technology forward, but we all have our differing expertise, right? So I'm more on the software and kind of the big picture sort of thinking about this. Josh is more hardware focused. He has a little bit more interest and background in that. Connor's kind of the intersection of all of these different things, and Ellie has more of the business background. So working together, we can move forward to advance this. And working with my parents as well, getting that design input from people that really know and experience the problem you're trying to solve is incredibly valuable. And it just so happens that I can call them. I mean, I call them pretty frequently anyway. So being able to talk to them about that is also super helpful, because not only does that help the project move forward, but it also helps them, right? Like at the core of this, I'm trying to help my dad. I'm trying to help my mom, have their quality of life be easier, because I don't know how to do a lot of the caregiving things that my mom and our caregivers do for my dad. I'm still in college, so it's not like I can financially contribute right now. So this is a very tangible thing to connect with them and to help them. So it kind of works both ways. When you serve other people, you also end up getting served yourself.